So he brought me and dropped me off. It was like a psychiatric facility that had just launched a substance abuse program. So man, it was scary. And I just went to the back, and you asked me earlier, what was the rock bottom? And this was it. It was in this psych facility. I went back to the back room, and I just kind of fell down on the bed, and I just started crying. And I started screaming at God, and man, I let him have it. I was like F-bombing and S-bombing and T-bombing, and I was going at it. And that night at that psych facility, I just let him have it. I told him everything. And here's the weird part. I woke up the next morning, and it wasn't crystal clear that moment, but it became crystal clear within the upcoming month. And this feeling and understanding was God telling me hey, I didn't get you into this. I didn't cause this, but I'm going to get you out. Right. And I always believed that for the first time in my life, the prayer, the yelling at God, the talking to God, it was the first time that what came out of my mouth was actually what was on my heart, right? It's the first real genuine time. But that night at that psych facility, I told God how I felt. And I don't really suggest F-bombing God, but in this instance, it was effective because I was legitimately transparent and vulnerable. And I told God how I felt. And he came back and said, all right, cool, let's do this. And I haven't had a sip of alcohol or a drug since then.
Wow. So how long has that been?
So I just celebrated 15 years.
Yay!
Woo! Yeah, thank you.
So you mentioned that kids were involved in the insanity part of the alcoholism. So when you had that moment of clarity in the psych hospital, how old were they? And how many were there?
Yeah, so we had 2, and my daughter was 5 years old, almost 6, and my son was 2. And when obviously, Susanna at CPS, we had family to watch the kids, so they didn't obviously end up in the system or anything. But they stayed with in-laws, my in-laws, my wife's parents, and
so wife was still in treatment at this point in time?
She was in treatment. And we were done. We were done. We had divorce papers drawn up and all that. And so got out of treatment. I moved into sober living. She moved into sober living. About 6 months later, we started dating again and kind of hanging out with each other. It's funny. There's an Akon song, right? And it was our theme song. And I would play it all the time. It was nobody want to see us together, right? And but you know, Mom, I got you, right? And so it was our song because everybody was God, no, don't get back together. What are you doing? And we did. And from a success rate standpoint, husbands and wives and boys and girls who drink and use together, they don't make a go in sobriety. But
yeah,
we figured we'd try it out anyway, and we did it, and it worked. And our kids came home at 9 months, and it was funny because our kids when they moved out. When they moved in with the in-laws, we had this beautiful house at North Ranch Estates Boulevard, right? But when they came to live with us after we got our stuff together, the only thing we could afford was this little mobile home, and I remember them walking in, and my daughter burst through the door and jumped up in our arms, and I remember my son looking around. And if you knew him, you would know how fitting that was. But yeah, it was kind of. I was looking at him, watching him, and I kept thinking he was man, what the hell is this? But it was good. It was a great homecoming, and it was amazing, and we loved having him. And a funny story about that is So like I still had that, living in facade and struggles with humility, even at this moment. And like I was like destined to be a humble person, but it was really difficult. And so it's funny because people would say, it's like I hated the word trailer, right? And people would say like, oh man, don't you guys live over there in that trailer? And I was like, hell no, it's a manufactured home. I mean, damn, right? Like, why you got to call it a trailer? But yeah, like it was a trailer, and it was an awesome trailer, and the kids came home to it, and we started over, and yeah, it was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and you mentioned that the odds are against any couple, and that's part of my story, right?
Yeah.
Like just getting sober together and trying to maintain. So did that end up maintaining, and what does sobriety look like for you today?
Yeah, it did for a very long time. It was my wife and I at the time met new people. We didn't know each other sober ever. And so that was a new experience, and things went well for years. And probably about 3 or 4 years ago, she had a slip, and followed by another slip. And obviously I don't want to tell too much of her story, because in all reality I don't know 100% what is exactly factual and what is not. It's been a very tumultuous situation, but yeah, she struggled, and the hardest thing for people who have extended sobriety, especially, like I always felt like it tugged on my heart, because she was willing to get sober and willing to go to treatment and willing to dive back in. But she wanted to go be 12 years sober again, right? Mm-hmm. She wanted to go from discharge from the treatment center to 12 years sober. And unfortunately, that early sobriety thing is shoulder to shoulder with other people exactly like you and with the same circumstances as you. So the odds were stacked against her, and I tried to be supportive. I certainly could have done things differently.
What did that look like? What did it look like with what you're saying exactly to make people understand? So she wanted to be that 12 years sober again, getting out of treatment. What does that mean? Yeah,
so anybody with extended sobriety, right? So I consider myself a man in long-term sobriety, right? And if I take a look at what I do now to stay sober, right, versus what I did year one, night and day different.
Yeah.
Now I still meet with young men, and I still have a mentor that I go and see. I go see a therapist, fairly regularly. I do some work, some workshops, right? So and early sobriety, it was me and a halfway house and some other guys who were struggling too, who had nothing, pooling our food stamps to go grocery shopping and have a barbecue was like highlight of the dang month, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, and now, like, I just have I have a different set of problems. I have a different set of challenges. Different set of struggles, and so I think she wanted to bypass all of this stuff. And again, I don't know. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but
sure.
Maybe you could have her on here at some point down the line. I don't know, but she just couldn't get sober. She went to treatment multiple times, and I understand she's sober now. Unfortunately, we didn't make it. We didn't. We divorced recently, and so we moved on, and we still have the kids together, and the kids understand. They're adults now.
How old are they now?
So my daughter will be 21 in another month.
Wow.
Yep, I'm going to take her to Las Vegas for her 21st birthday.
Wow.
That's a good dad.
Yep.
Yeah, and how old is your son?
He's going to be 18 in about 4 months. So
wow.
He'll be 18, yeah. And he moved out here. So I moved out to California
Do you still spend time in Texas?
I do. Yeah, I still have a home there. I still have all my friends there. I do some consulting work, and so I have some clients there. And I love Texas. I do. I love Texas. I feel like I'm probably always going to be a Texan, but I do like it out here in California. I was like, you know what? My money is going way too far here in Texas. I think I'm going to bring it out to California where I can get much less. That's exactly what I'm going to do.
So you mentioned that early sobriety is different than how it is for you today, which you have time now, just celebrating 15 years. So what does that maintenance look like? And then I know you're in the industry, so part of that is finding the balance between being a present father and showing up in the industry, but also maintaining your program. So how do you do all of that?
Yeah. So I would like to say that, and probably it's surprising that I haven't, talked more about it up until this point, but like I'm a God guy. I love God. And I'm a Christian man, and so I walk in faith and live in faith and operate in faith, and so that is the foundation of everything I am, right? And so now, with that being said, there are still things that I have to do, and I think people in the industry, especially, probably and maybe more so than anywhere else, but need to do their own work. And so, I believe in experiential therapy, and I believe in those workshops. And if you have some trauma that you've never worked through, I think there's places to go and dive into that. It took me like five therapists to find somebody that I connected to. And I just love her. She's great. Her name's Natalie, and she helped me through the divorce. She's helped me through this big professional transition that when I came out and took over here. But yeah, I think you got to do your own work. I still meet with young men and help them, as best I can, help guide them. I like to meet with young fathers, people who are difficult, young couples. Every young man doesn't expect his wife to change, right? And every young woman expects that guy to do everything right. And so it's this huge, like just giant, messy, hard, difficult, struggle. And so, so I do. I meet with young men when I can, and I say, look, can you imagine what she's going through, right? And her whole body's changing, her whole life's changing. And, and I see guys and they're like, but she's so mean to me. I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's not her. She's like, yeah, but she says the most horrible things to me. I'm like, yeah, but she doesn't mean them. She's just a struggle, right? And so that's what I mean by that, right? I give young men who can do it credit, right? Now, like God didn't give the birth to the man because we couldn't have handled it, couldn't have done it. I wouldn't do it. But yeah, I mean, it's a difficult task to stand in there as a good man and stand in there and take care of her and love her and be there for her and massage her swollen feet when she needs it and bring her flowers periodically. And yeah, that's what a good man has to do. But when that woman is telling him how awful he is and how ugly his hair is and like just whatever, it's so yeah, I do. I have opportunity and privilege to work with some young men and help them through.
Cade, you're going to have to help some other people through when you have to deal with somebody going through menopause. I'm just warning you. That's a whole nother.
Yeah.
Another
so
thing.
See, maybe I should be careful of what I'm saying right now. I don't run the chance of having to deal with a pregnant woman anymore, and I'm making sure that. But
Lord.
Yeah, I better be willing to help. Whatever.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's crazy. We sometimes ask our guests if you could give our listeners one action for the day that they can do today. What would it be?
Listeners, all right. So I would probably say, tell like that person in your mind that you need to tell something to, call them right now and tell them, right? And if it's your girl at home, or if it's your boss, or if it's your buddy that you snubbed this weekend or whatever, call and tell them. Tell them what you need to tell them. Tell them how you feel, and tell them. And that's the hard thing to do. And I think relationships without communication are kind of doomed to fail, right?
Yeah.
I remember going to couples therapy, and I'll end with this, going to couples therapy forever. And all these therapists would say, yeah, well, like if y'all would quit drinking and using drugs, you'd probably be okay. And I'll be like, nah, I don't think that's it. I don't really think that's probably it. It's got to be something else. It's like, yeah, of course that was it, right? But all these therapists would say the same thing. A relationship without communication is doomed to fail. And so, yeah, I think that'd be the best advice I could give. I was going to say prayer, because I don't think you can go wrong with prayer. And if God, okay, well, let's say that. If God is the one you need to communicate to today, then do that. If there's a secret you're holding on to, let somebody know it, and communicate. All relationships without communication doomed to fail.
That's awesome.
So I know, I mean, obviously you went from Texas to California. California is lucky to have you, the industry there. So tell us what you do there.
Yes.
And how we can get a hold of you.
That's right. So I am taking over Ocean Recovery, and we are a men's program and a women's program, two separate programs. The women specialize and focus on substance abuse and co-occurring eating disorder, co-occurring trauma. And we also, at the men's program, we do substance abuse and trauma. We will accommodate and help young men and men with eating disorder. It's not a specialty for the men's program as it is for the women's. But we are on the beach, which is like 90 feet from the beach down on the peninsula in Newport Beach, California, where the weather is always amazing. So we are one of the very few programs where everything is done at one location, right? So like the clinical is done in one location, the psychiatric evaluation is done in one location, and you sleep and you eat, and everything is done at those individual locations. And they are, massive beach homes right on the beach. And so they're our worst place to get sober. I love being here. I'm having a blast. Leadership is here. I am a very, very, very big believer in healthy organization. And I believe, and so I support and 100% all of our staff taking care of themselves. I believe that all of that trickles down. And so yeah, we actually have a little small little budget allocated for our leaders and our therapists, our men, our women, to do some of their own work. And so we're going to continue that. Hopefully that budget will continue to grow. And so, yeah, I'm having a blast. I love it out here. Oceanrecovery.com. And yeah, we are like Hilary's lesser half is in fact Greg White, one of my absolute best friends. Love the guy. Such a good man and good guy, and a lot of fun. And he recently came over to work with us. And so, so I am very excited. I'm very excited. He's a character. Indeed. Well, this has been a blast. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh man, Cade, I'm just so happy. And thank you for sharing the intimate things. I know that it was hard what you went through with all these changes that have happened of late. And I know that, I'm just so happy to see how well your kids are doing, that God is forging a path for, all parties. And I look forward to the next chapter of your life and what God's doing in that area. And I'm just thrilled for you. And I'm just real happy that my sweetheart gets to work with you, and he's thrilled too.
Yeah. I'm excited. It's great. Well, you guys are awesome. And, really thankful for you including me today. It was fun. I haven't really gone down memory lane in a while. Unfortunately, I haven't had to tell my story, or haven't gotten gotten to tell my story in a long time. So certainly it's good to remember some of those things, the good and the bad.